maybe a couple of stragglers in, but just to honor everybody.
There he is.
Right.
First set.
Awesome. Go.
That's.
Give you a seat. Oh, thanks. And there's food. So we'll try to keep this about an hour. So let's all work on that principle. Get a lot of information out to you, and then get on with your evening. So I'm Jim Donovan, OEM, Office of Emergency Management in San Juan County. And everybody probably knows each other, but let's just do the around the room. Let's start with
Eric, I'm Deputy Clerk.
Elizabeth Stuffings, Town Administrator.
John Zarkis, Public Works Director.
Bill Harper.
Here.
San Juan County Administrator.
Lindsay Halverson, Board Trustees.
Carl Schnecker, Board Trustees.
Sarah Moore, San Juan Development Association.
Scott Petchenmeyer, San Juan County Commissioner.
Austin Lashley, San Juan County Commissioner. E. Meisel, County Commissioner.
Chase, Housing Authority Director.
Stephen Mead, Facilities, Parks and Recreation.
Mike Burton, Silverton Medical Rescue.
Kim Buck, County Assessor.
Bevan Harris, Town of Silverton and San Juan County Building Inspector and Code Official and bad guy.
Sheriff. So let's make this interactive. We're going to talk about training for disasters, how we all work together, and especially on more of the government side of things. So not so much on the first responder side. We'll talk about that, but really what do all of us in the government do when there is a disaster? And every single person here can play a role in all of the fun. But before we jump into that, got a couple of good events for people to attend. The wildfire preparedness. We're going to be updating our community wildfire protection plan on May 18th. And this will be a total community event. We also have a lot of subject matter experts who are going to be there. Colorado State Forest, U.S. Forest Service, BLM, Division of Wildfire Protection, MSI, CDOT. So we got a lot of folks who are going to be there to help provide information on that. So getting both town and county participation on that is also really good. And then following it up on what's cleanup, it's the 29th.
29th, 30th,
Yeah,
I believe.
29th and 30th. 2 days of cleanup with a wildfire focus. And that is really being spearheaded by town public works, which will be great. So we will get more word out about that event as well. So 2 days, get everybody's stuff cleaned up around town. So I think it's an extension of what Silverton Medical Rescue has done in the past few years, and really just kind of amping it up. So that'll be good as well. So tonight I'm going to be going over and getting your participation on really what we all do when there is a disaster. And this goes for town, county staff, and the town board and board of county commissioners. So everybody plays a part in it. It's total government approach, and it's a total community approach because government can't do it alone. We need to get community involvement as well. In the EM office, our job is mitigate, prepare, respond, and recover. And that is a resilient community. Office is really myself and Diane Gallegos, who's actually, she's sick tonight, but she is our public information officer and plays a key role. So disasters, they break systems. So when we get a disaster, it's not just like kind of pushing on how things work. That's really just a normal emergency. They will break things. And then we have to figure out how do we patch it up and continue on. So preparedness and response are really they really are a part of your normal job. You may not actually realize it, but it is. So that's what this training is about, is to kind of give you an idea of what to expect and how you can help. And we have a few people who may not have been here in some of the disasters. I'll show a timeline and we can talk about it. But all disasters really start local, and you may get outside help from neighbors and even the feds. But ultimately, it ends with us. So that is something always to remember. It's something that disasters really have a long-term recovery on. And tonight, this really is focusing on wildfire. So wildfire is the most, the highest potential. I'm not going to show what the snowpack is looking like or ground level, but just to let you know, our snowpack with this recent precip, we have kicked up just a little past the minimum, but we're still at historic lows. If you've gone hiking out around in the forests, you can see that the any little stream that normally is flowing right now, totally dry. Animas River, just kind of freakishly low. And then drought, we were at the highest level of drought and we've bumped one level down. We've also, the town has implemented water restrictions more as a preventative measure, but I think it's very very new. But this is the significant wildfire lookout. This is put out by the National Interagency Fire Center. And so they do this really every quarter. So you can see that Colorado is higher than normal predicted, and that tracks very well. So I also just wanted to give you an idea on kind of what the federal picture is, because the feds have been it's been a lot of turmoil. But on the wildfire side, they have created a new agency called the U.S. Wildland Fire Service. And they're basically taking all of the firefighting capacity out of a lot of different agencies and merging them into one new agency. This one new agency has not gotten all of its funding yet, but they do have their little patches, and you're starting to see those circulating around. So that will be basically a new thing that we're dealing with. Then on the bigger disaster policy picture, this is Pagosa Springs floods from last fall. The disaster declarations are on the federal side are becoming a lot more difficult to obtain. So this was just an example. Pagosa, Archuleta, La Plata had some significant fires, and the flooding was actually even more significant damage. The federal aid was denied for that. And federal aid can often be very political, and this was a very political situation. So here's the recent disasters that we have. I got hired just about a month before this happened. And I promise I didn't go knock the little plug out of the building. There was a federal employee. But the Old King mine spill, who was around in Salem County when that occurred? Don't be shy, raise your hands. Okay, so actually, that is kind of surprising. Gold King mine spill, this was a national incident. It did impact multiple states. We can talk a lot of details about it, but we won't. Then we've had the 416 fire, also a very significant fire. I think it now ranks like 6th, 7th in Colorado history in size. It's been surpassed by several others. And then we did do disaster declarations for this. The avalanche cycle in 2019, that was very significant, but we actually did not do a disaster declaration for that. Then COVID-19, that's just to cover all the bases from fire and ice to pandemic. We got that. Did a disaster declaration really quickly. And the ice fire, that also was a very dramatic fire. Started out with a basically search and rescue incident. And by the end of tail end of the fire, we were basically put on pre-evacuation alert because the fire, if the conditions had continued to be dry, the fire could have impacted San Juan or Silverton. And then end of the pandemic. So we had a fire and a pandemic at the same time. But we don't just have disasters. Sometimes we can have events that cause disasters. So this is just an example of the Iron Horse has had, this has not happened just once, but at least 2 times where we've had significant snow events during the event, during the bicycle race, and then had to basically do a lot of helping of the participants. They have actually improved their pre-planning a lot for this, so so that is a good thing. I will be throwing out a lot of acronyms. This whole business has just an insane number of acronyms. So if I say something that you don't know, just ask, stop, and be like, "What the heck is that?" And I'll fill you in. But let's just go over a typical, or this is not typical, but just kind of what a disaster timeline looks like. We're basically always in this preparedness phase. A disaster hits, it can be either short-term and doesn't have a big impact, or intermediate where it's weeks to months, or long-term. But the big thing to notice is that basically the disaster hits, then you can have a very long recovery time. And an example of that would be Gold King mine spill, and we're still dealing basically with the recovery from the Gold King. And we'll deal with it really for the rest of our careers and lives, really. So that's an example of it. But other examples, ice fire, there's still quite a bit of work to be done to replant the forest, make it less hazardous. But when an incident hits, these are basically the 3 big priorities that we look at. Life safety, always number 1. So we want to make sure that is dealt with immediately. Incident stabilization, so whatever is causing the disaster hazard, that we are doing something to stabilize that. Then we look at property and environmental protection. So we also have what's called a unified disaster response, so especially between the town and the county. But this is basically the idea that when a disaster hits regionally, or even bigger than that, we're going to have unity of command. Everybody is going to have a nice chain of command where they're reporting to basically one supervisor, and that just goes up to the system. So you don't have it too scattered out. Unity of command, and then unity of effort. We also operate on just one principle. We're going to, for example, we're going to save Silverton or San Juan County. So everybody is basically operating under that principle. So you go to any community and they will have that. It's like, hey, we're going to save this community. For Silverton and San Juan County, we do have an intergovernmental agreement. So when we do declare disaster, we are basically merged in that. And that way we're using resources from the town and county, still accounting for all of it. But that way we can kind of do force multiplying and we don't have to maybe do as much bureaucracy. It's the idea is that we're just all working together. And with that, disasters do not recognize jurisdictional boundaries. So wildfires, perfect example. It burns through federal land, state land, private land, across county boundaries. So we just always have to remember that. So this I'm just throwing out here because this is something I think as town and county we need to work on. But when a disaster happens, basically all of our services are we still try to make them available. But what if we actually had to evacuate Silverton out of the county? So how would both town and county operate out of our jurisdiction? So that's just something I'm throwing out there because that's actually something we need to essentially figure out how that would work. And I don't know, Willie, do you have any ideas on that?
Actually, technology will make it a lot easier than it would have been,
Yeah,
10 years ago.
good answer. I like it. So when you have a disaster, it is not a work day. Everything is going to be totally messed up. We have basically this is all these photos in here from things that have happened in Silverton. But fuel may not be available. Electricity will be out. You name it. Services will be taken out. So we've got to adapt to that situation, learn quickly, work under pressure. And a lot of times it may be self-directed where it's like, hey, this is a problem. You're asked to solve it. You may not get a lot of direction on how to do that. Moving on to the next big, these are some big definitions for you as a group. We have what's called a policy group. This is really the Board of County Commissioners and the town board basically work together as one group to figure out these problems. So as a group, this is really a communications flow. You're going to talk to the Emergency Operations Center, which is usually just myself and Deanne. But as incidents expand, we may add more people to it. We also may have an incident management team that is located here in Silverton or San Juan County. And they may be basically taking care of the incident or threat at hand. So example, with the ice fire, we had an incident management team that's made up of multiple agencies. Their job was to fight the fire. They were not going to deal with doing an evacuation or any of the issues that Silverton may have. That's our job right here. So as a policy group, you're getting all of your information from us. It's really important that you're not jumping into the IMT's meeting and kind of you just basically have to let them do their work. So the initial questions for a policy group is asking just a few of these questions. So the first one is, you're going to contact me or my counterparts and ask, how bad is this situation? And then you're going to ask, is this getting worse? Then you're going to convene the policy group, relevant elected officials, and start basically mobilizing to do a disaster declaration. Attorneys need to be involved with this, so you need to contact them, make sure that everything is very clear. Then you'll do a disaster declaration based on recommendations that you get. And at this point too, it's also good for you to reach out to your counterparts, both at the state and federal level. And just basically say, hey, we have a real problem here. This actually is one of the key things that the policy group can do. And then a key thing also is to direct communications through the public information officer. And we also can call Deanne the liaison. It's basically like contact either one of us because we'll be able to give you the updates. But the key thing is that when a disaster initially happens, you can be very vulnerable to press coming in and asking a lot of questions. And it's very key that you basically have to kind of button up and say, no, we're directing all of these communications through the PIO. Because what can happen, and we've seen this happen, is that the press can kind of nail one person and they're just looking for a really great quote. And we just really have to avoid that happening. This is true for staff as well. So you start just until we have a clear picture of the situation, make sure that you're directing those questions through the PIO or liaison. So then you start asking these big strategic questions. Basic ones are, what do you already know? What do we need to know? Who has the answers that you need? And then what key tasks need to be accomplished? And then what are the priorities? Priorities are usually just going back to the big three, but some of those priorities may be protecting natural resources or even historical and cultural resources. So just depending on the incident, this is a key thing. The next key thing is, does this incident exceed our capabilities and resources? Most always they will. Silverton, San Juan County we just have a really small population and we are not going to be able to hold on for very big incidents for very long. It's not a big deal to go out and ask for help. So this is really a key one to get addressed immediately. So then we do a proclamation of state of local emergency. Here is an example from the 416 fire, and this stuff can happen really quickly. It usually happens on a Friday at 4 p.m. and
Willie's on vacation.
Willie's on vacation.
Every time.
And basically, this is where it's important to have make sure that you are available. If you're an elected official, it's good to be available, or at least let Elizabeth or Willie know where if you're out of town and you're not available. And just making sure that you have also basically a chain of command in both the county commissioners and so these can really happen really, really quickly. So local disaster declaration, chief executive gets a brief, does the declaration based on recommendation from emergency manager. Make sure that your attorney looks it over. Notification, then I send it to the state through the State Department of Homeland Security, and that gets filed. It basically can hold for 7 days. After that 7 days, then it's a more formal process. It's basically the same document, but then it gets kind of locked down a little more. But once that declaration is filed, then it opens up state resources and federal resources. So that's where it is key often to get it done as soon as possible. So another key thing to look at, it's called delegation of authority. This is our our gentleman over here, the sheriff. This is from the 416 fire. The sheriff does have basically authority for wildland fire in state statute. And during the 416, it accelerated quite quickly. So this is an example of Bruce Conrad giving delegation authority to the incident commander of that fire. And that basically means that they're transferring their authority over to the incident commander, who will then be able to use resources appropriately. This is basically a formal agreement that you have to work out between the IC and whoever has that initial authority. So it's also can be called transfer of command. So it's basically saying, hey, I've got a problem. I've got a lot of problems, but I want you to deal with this one problem for me. And that's where you have to make sure it gets documented.
What's the date on that letter, Jim?
June 8th, 2000.
So it's a full week after the fire started.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah. And the 416 went from basically and I'll go over this a little bit, a type 3 fire to a type 1 fire within a week. And type 1 is the basically max size that you can get. So I'll show just a couple of these basically org charts. But this is your standard org chart that you will get from basically a type 3 incident up to a type 1. You'll have an incident commander, public information officer, safety officer, liaison, and then you have what's called the general staff. The operations section chief, that's essentially the person who's driving all of the tactics for the fire or incident, planning, logistics, and finance. So that's a group of 8 people that has to be mobilized to help deal with the problem. So it's quite a big group, really. But if you're doing any communications, you may be talking to the IC or the liaison officer. The liaison officer kind of wrangles all of the jurisdictions involved to get their feedback and also to say what's going on with the incident. So we have also the IMT and the Emergency Operations Center work in parallel. The IMT deals with those 3 immediate problems. Then the EOC deals with the consequences of those problems. I'll go into a little bit of detail on that. And then kind of deals with the long-term impacts of the incident. And this is after the avalanche cycle, 2019, and this is out towards Eureka. So a pretty severe incident. So IMT, example 416 fire, get everybody together, get a map, start figuring it out. Ice fire here is same idea, but everybody's spread out with masks on. So incidents go from type 5. This is your basically kind of a larger EMS fire search and rescue incident. These are just basically the standard incidents that we deal with for the majority of the year. Once you hit type 3, that's when you will have an incident management team. Type 2, you'll have an incident management team with a lot of other people. And then type 1, this is just the max. So it also shows, this is your operational period. It's usually 1 day. And then it just kind of expands from there.
What did we hit for 416 and Ice Lake?
Within a week, it had already, like the first 2 days, it had already gone to type 3, and within a week, type 1. And so it takes about that time to basically mobilize all of those resources that are needed to fight it.
Lindsay also asked about the ice fire. How far up did that go?
Ice fire was a type 3, and now it's a local incident management team. We have 2 that are in the southwest. So they were here actually by the second day. So mobilized and all ready to go. And yeah. So we'll just roll through these. So Gold King Mine, this was type 1. And it was a type 1 because it went from basically Silverton all the way down to Lake Powell. So it involves just the number of jurisdictions is kind of mind-boggling. 416 was just an example of when it basically got to the type 1 level. And that's 550 closed due to the fire. And ice fire type 3. And here's basically a look at there were a group of hikers that had been trapped, so it was mobilizing a lot of local resources to get them out. So it was actually very hectic on the front end, and then they were able to kind of get to your standard firefighting.
Do we know what started that?
It was apparently a dude smoking a joint
Oh, sure.
on the trail.
Burning hot.
Yeah. So EOC is the central hub for all the stakeholders. So if you guys have questions, go to the EOC. EOC is based in the EMS. And this is key because we want to keep the incident management team basically keep them busy doing their job and not really asking a lot of questions. They will be in contact with the EOC, and that's basically where that communication piece happens. EOC also gives that situational awareness, does all the communications locally, and then if necessary, we can do any coordination with the incident management team on emergency response. Then resource tracking, local, state, federal. So keeping track of all of that information. And then the big three are consequence, recovery, and if there's multiple incidents. And it basically goes from green, yellow, red, and basically everything's normal, steady state. Yellow is when we're watching out for something, and red is full activation. Okay, so this is kind of if everything gets totally filled out, but honestly, the normal operating is the 2 of us, me and Deanne. So if though things really expand, then we jump to a lot of other folks. It looks similar to an IMT, but there are differences in lingo. Another thing that the EOC will do is damage assessment. So we want to go look at, start reporting what has been destroyed in our area. And it's basically broken into all of the elements of how a community works. So we've got 7 categories, 8 categories on this. It's basically safety and security, which is all of your government functions, food and shelter, health and medical, comms, energy, transport, hazmat, and water systems. So with all of these, you can see how our government, our different departments kind of fit into those categories. And it's basically what's called community lifelines, where those lifelines are what keeps a community going. And we report these up to the state on a weekly basis. So we have a call and we say everything's green or everything's yellow, or one component is yellow. So here's a little more detail. I'll just go over government as an example. So we've got law enforcement, fire, search and rescue, government, admin, And then community safety, EMS would be over in the health and medical. And then, so here's an example, green, everything's working, yellow, one of these is at risk. Red means that it's totally not working. In gray, we don't have enough information on it. So here's just an example of damage assessment. So this would be the assessor playing a role in this. So the assessor may need some help getting out to that location and maybe getting escorted by search and rescue. So that's where they kind of start blending those together. So with any of these incidents, this is for both fire and any incidents. Basically in Colorado, we've got what's called the 24-hour rule. We'll help each other out in the first 24 hours. And then after that, start figuring out the costs. And wildfire in Colorado, this is how it rolls. We've got feds are responsible for 100% of the federal lands. Fire protection districts are responsible for that initial attack on county or private lands. And as soon as it exceeds capabilities, they start requesting assistance. The sheriff is basically responsible for any fire starts that occur on private or county lands. And the sheriff can work with fire protection districts to basically say, hey, can you go do this? And then the state can come in, the FPC, and we do have a mechanism in Colorado. It's called the Emergency Fire Fund or the executive order that can help pay to essentially have the state agency come in and help. So I'll just go through a few different other documents that that you can encounter. The first one is all of this stuff is documented in our emergency operations plan. This gets approved every 3 years, and it also documents that town and county intergovernmental agreement. Wildfire operating plan, this gets reviewed every year and approved, and basically lays out all those details. So once we have an incident, we'll also have what's called an incident action plan. This is from the 416. This gets produced on a daily basis, and it sets out basically the tactics and objectives for the fire. So big thing too are communications and public meetings. This is actually from the fire up in Meeker last year, and this is from the Stoner Mesa fire. So you can see different formats with the number of people involved. But basically, incident management teams will do this. They will also have the local participation. This is where you may have a county commissioner, town board would come up and also speak with this. So those are just two examples. Okay, and then disaster finances. This gets more on the complicated side, but basically if you get approved for a disaster declaration, this means that residents can apply for personal grants, public assistance. That's where state, local governments can help with repair. And these indicators are actually pretty low, and I'm almost 100% sure those will be changing quite dramatically. The presidential disaster declaration it's always been a very political process. So that's actually where it is very important early on to start communicating with senators and Congress, congressmen, women, And that really should go from the policy group because it's just, they just understand that process a lot more. In Gold King Mine incident, I think we actually did do a good job of getting politicians involved earlier than other incidents. And, we had Governor Hickenlooper actually drink untreated water in the river. So that was kind of stuff that you'll see. So I'm getting close here, folks. So this is really key. We do have it's called our integrated public warning and alert system. And that is using Nixle. We've got 3,000 contacts on that. So quite a few more people on it than the population of San Juan County. And actually the emails, we have a very large email list beyond that. That's just for Nixle. And then social media, we have 11,000 people signed up on that. So we've got really good reach on those platforms. One thing I would recommend everybody do is download this app. It's called Watch Duty. And this is a very good app, especially for this summer. It's incredibly useful, gives you an idea of what's going on regionally. So if we have things going on in La Plata County or San Miguel, you'll be able to see that as well. So there we go, folks. Still have time for some Q&A. This is also from the course. All right. Any questions? Yes.
Well, it's not so much a question, but a memory from the Gold King. I had been assessor for about a year, but this is basically a pitch to take the incident command classes, the ICS classes that a bunch of it you can just do online. But I got really shaken because I got so many phone calls and then the New York Times was calling. And I felt like I needed to answer them because it felt like I was the only one who knew the answer because they were asking things like, who owns the property and what's the value of the property damage and things like that. And it's not like I could just say, oh, you should talk to the emergency manager. But if I wish I had understood the ICS system before getting thrown in. And now I realize, no, you don't have to answer the New York Times right away. So.
Yeah.
And don't talk with the.
Yeah.
Let Deanne do that. Because it can really skew the way things are being perceived if somebody else starts talking or blabbing or anything like that. It's just better that our public information officer deals with any inquiries. It's just better. And it's better for us, I mean, all of a sudden you could have 20 press in the Grand Imperial asking you questions or something. You don't have time for them. But just funnel it all to Deanne, let her answer.
Nancy Reagan taught us in the 80s, just say no. Send them all to Jim Donovan.
I have a question on that, like logistically, is that just like passing Deanne's number over? Is there gonna be like, is there one main phone number? Is there one main email? Like, how do you logistically do that?
It's basically giving her email and phone number.
Okay.
And that's acceptable to do. And that's really is the best. It's like, just tell, like, especially if it's a reporter.
Yeah.
And reporters will sometimes not be honest on who they are. So if you do get a question, really suss out like, who are you and what are you calling about? And then it's totally fine. It's just say, hey, we're under a disaster declaration and please talk to a PIO and give them their information.
Is that, sorry, just follow up on there. Is that the same for like passing over incident command? Like, whoever's email that is, just passing that over kind of thing?
We should really direct any kind of communications to one person.
Okay,
So if they'll find out the incident commander's name, like in the all of that information gets put into here. But like this guy was very experienced. He had worked on many fires, but he's gonna do that too. If somebody kind of breaks through everything, he'll just be like, nope, talk to our PIO. So that's how you do it. Yes.
Michael had his hand.
Having a lot of experience with this, I think that the easiest and most polite and least informational way to handle this is, hang on a second, I'll call you back. Can I have your number? And then send that number over to Deanne. Because if you even get into, we're under a disaster designation, oh, you are. And so write that
When
down. It did not know that. They're really good at this. Like, I'll call you back and get their number.
Yeah, but saying that we're under a disaster declaration, it's an honest,
That's true.
it's totally fine to.
What I'm saying is, if you start explaining why you're not talking to them, now that they're getting leverage in.
Oh, right, but that's, it's good not to be like stonewalling them. You are saying, hey, this is how our policy works. You don't have to say any of that, but it's just like, boom, just give that. And that will usually satisfy them. But it's, you could do both approaches. Yes.
Jim and I have talked, we're pulling together a comprehensive medical plan. There are two aspects of medical for an incident like this. One falls under operations, one falls under logistics. And to Kim's point, about verbiage is a good thing. Essentially, logistics is taking care of those who are fighting the fire, and operations is taking care of people who might be involved. So our plan includes everything from LZs to where a medical tent would go. Where this group might become important is expect pretty much everybody in this room. I might contact you at some point to make sure that all of our contacts are up to date. And if we may put in a couple like potential asks, hey, by the way, we might be asking you for this. And just want to put that out there and have everybody nod while everybody else is looking at them nod.
Yeah, that's great, Mike. Thanks for that. Yeah, and then just one other this is another part of the consequences, and this is different from the IMT. So we do have like a damage group, but we also have basically what's called recovery. And you can see this may be implemented a little later, but as soon as you're able to, is implement someone who can start working on recovery, because the saying is recovery starts the day that disaster starts. So that person is really key. Yes, Austin.
I just wanted to one more note on the media stuff. It's not always like, just ferry it to Deanne. Sometimes you might expect a call from Deanne too, saying, hey, there's somebody from the news.
Yes.
Who wants to talk to, an elected official about this. Are you able to field this call? And then you're able to kind of strategize and brainstorm the narrative or how you want to do it. So it's not always just pushing it off to Deanne, but it's a great like collaborative effort. And also both city and county attorneys can also help keep you out of trouble by helping point out liability issues with talking about certain topics too sometimes.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, because that is what Deanne will basically, even if you don't get a call, she may call you up and ask, hey, would you want to, be at a public meeting and be one of these folks up here and kind of give a local perspective on what's going on. So that's great.
Jim, can I add one more thing there? The reporters don't just call. In DC, there's something called the elevator rule. Never talk about anything in an elevator because there's somebody else in that elevator. Here, it might be the Coffee Bear Golden Block rule. So anything that's confidential, It just doesn't matter to, be in a private place to talk about it, because anybody can be listening in and writing it down. Thank you very much.
Show up in the store and just nonchalantly say, well, I heard such and such, they don't even identify themselves.
Yeah.
And you just gotta be real careful about what you're saying and who you're talking.
Yes, Willie.
Just a few comments. One, your slide with the public meetings and stuff is, occasionally those meetings actually happen in an adjoining community. Gold King, I mean, we had meetings up here, but we also had meetings in La Plata County. So sometimes the mayor or staff or a carload of dignitaries from up here have to go down to a meeting down there and that type of thing. So that's not uncommon. The other thing is, it's kind of interesting, is the Missionary Ridge fire happened in 2000. It was a major fire in La Plata County. Forest Service came up here and checked out forest up here, and basically their comment was, asbestos forest up here, we don't have to worry about it. 416 fire came up or happened. They came up here and they shut down everything immediately. They had roadblocks on every access road. Nothing was opened. They did reopen Ophir after we talked to them about that, but just because it was so far to get around without going over. And then, of course, we had the ice fire. So we went from, in a period of 20 years, we went from no problem to actually having fires. The 416 fire, I mean, there wasn't anything that was harmed in San Juan County, but the impacts were huge. Starting with the first day when we have a couple of trains full of people stuck on this side and trying to figure out how to get them back. And it wasn't just to get them back to Durango, but a lot of those people left their medications in their hotel rooms in Durango. So it was, there were potentially medical issues. There was, if we can't get them back, where do we put them? So things like that you don't necessarily think about happen. And then, of course, just the fact that the road was closed and the train wasn't running, economic impact on the community was huge. Same thing with the Missionary Ridge fire. And, at one point we had the governor of the state of Colorado going on national TV and telling people, don't come to Colorado, we're on fire. And we weren't, but
It didn't help.
it didn't help. Gold King, I mean, as Jim said, we're dealing with that. I mean, forever. It's not going to go away. The Iron Horse race, I mean, talk about scary. I mean, you had all these bike riders up get hit with a blizzard, and they were abandoning their bicycles, and basically the school sent their buses up to pick up the riders, and they put them in the carriage house to try to keep them from all suffering from hypothermia. I mean, it was drastic. It got scary real quick. So yeah, it's you kind of think of when you say disaster, you think of the typical stuff, get people evacuated, fight the fire, whatever, but there's all these other ancillary things that just come out that you've got to be prepared for.
Yes.
You talked about how disasters don't know jurisdictional boundaries, and I think it's very clear that the town and the county will work together, but thinking about like evacuation and that sort of deal, like are there partnerships and policies in place with our surrounding counties for like shelters? And I'm sure there is, but just thinking about what that would look like, especially for our vulnerable population.
Yep, that's a great question. With sheltering, we really use the Red Cross heavily. So they've come up here and worked on looking at what we have available. But the same thing with all of our surrounding counties. So if we did have to do an evacuation of Silverton, Ouray or Durango, we have shelter agreements set up. And we have like the 416 fire, the whole basically Southern County was evacuated. With shelters, people really have not been using shelters very much. So you do use those as more of a evacuation center. So people can come in and check in and basically say where they're going, but people have really kind of moved to. You still have it available, but they don't really use them as much. Yes.
Not something that I think we need to go through or discuss tonight, but maybe for the community meeting, I'm wondering if we should have kind of some of the draft language of what fire ban looks like in the county, just for the community to have, you know, like, and I know Dennis is working on revising ours for the county just a little bit and tweaking it, but we've worked really closely with the Forest Service and the BLM to try and get them to be on the same page and modify some of their fire structures. I'd say we've had a lot better success with the Forest Service than we have with the BLM. And a lot of that's come out of the 416 fire, and they're working with the train for they're updating their matrices and creating, you know, better models for fire prediction.
Yep.
But it might be a good thing to just have, you know, like BLM, Forest Service, town, county, and just explain to the public, like, when we see a stage 1 fire ban, this is what it's going to look like. Stage 2 is going to look like this. And stage 3 is basically all public land shut in the forest list. So
yeah, we can absolutely do that. And I think that's a great idea, because I think that'll be probably one of the first questions from the public. It's like, what's the deal with fire restrictions?
yeah.
So yeah,
I've already fielded a couple questions from
Yeah.
people about fire restrictions already. So just getting ahead of it, and you know, for the education piece, just getting people prepared what they're going to see.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll make a note of that. We will have Forest Service and BLM present as well.
Yeah.
Getting those two agencies to kind of work together in agreement is difficult. And it's usually the timing of the restrictions, like Forest Service is a lot easier. BLM, there's always a bit more of a lag.
It's just hard because they're so disparate, right? Like we've got the BLM in Gunnison, and they deal with, you know, GMUG Forest Service, and they deal with Columbine Ranger District Forest Service, and I don't even know who else. They probably have a few others that I'm missing that aren't on our radar.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Forest Service has to deal with Rio Grande Forest Service and our Forest Service and GMUG and all that too, like right on the borders. So
yeah,
I know it's difficult for them to kind of all align, but we've worked pretty hard to get them to try and be closer. And I feel like we've made some progress towards consistent messaging.
Yep.
Do you think that the wildfire combining into one organization is a good thing?
It's too early to say.
Actually, I got a comment on that.
They had an incident that worked together, yeah.
I got a comment on that. Jim started this with every disaster is a local disaster at the beginning and the end of it. And so we've taken away the local empowerment of our agencies to help in disaster situations by nationalizing an organization.
Does that slow down?
That's mine.
Because we're not using the local ones.
You know, I think it won't. Ideally, it won't slow down the response, but what is going to be a challenge is how they do mitigation. That's unclear, because this is really the way they are setting this up. It's like responding to fire, an active incident. So they're not actually using fire as the land management tool.
They're not going to be given rakes to come out and rake the forest.
Nice callback. Good one. Good one.
Those policy documents that you had on the screen earlier, are those publicly hosted somewhere?
Yeah,
Posted somewhere?
EOP is posted on the county website.
Okay.
And then we don't post the wildfire operating plan, but if you want a copy of it, you'll send it.
I'd like a copy of that.
Okay, yep. Excellent. Okay,
Kevin.
all really good questions. Let's
Thanks.
just do, I promise to stay under an hour, and with the folks who are here a little over 6, I think we can get going. Because I think it's good just to think of an exercise here. We just do this.
Kevin. Sure they have. We know.
And I was thinking we'd divvy up into groups, but why don't we just work through this as one big group? Do you all feel good about that? Yes. Excellent, Jim. So here's the briefing. So it's Friday, 4 p.m., new fire ignition in Belcher Basin. Everybody know where that is?
Yep.
Right over there. So just over the ridge from Bear Creek. What's the significance of Bear Creek?
It's our water source.
Yes. John, do you want to elaborate a little? What, it's just our water source, but.
It's one of 2 of our water sources, and it's, in my definition, it's the primary because it's a lot bigger basin that we draw from. So our gallons that we get from that basin are a lot more stable than our other water source, which is Boulder.
Yeah, okay. So that is key. So right there, we've got infrastructure at risk, natural resource at risk, and like couple of key life right there. So we've got the Hard Rock 100 race is going on. And this is, don't get too much into the weeds with the details, but basically 50% complete. Runners are spread out all over the San Juans. And there's a trail of runners in Bear Creek. We also have intermittent closures on Highway 550 in Uray County. They're doing rock scaling.
Yeah.
This is all totally like not too crazy thinking here. CDOT will need basically 2 hours to clear the road with opening with 1 lane. So the resource crunch we have here, it's stressing all emergency and infrastructure systems in town and county. And kind of any questions on that situation update? Okay, so where do you get and give information? Just toss out anything that comes to your head.
You or the sheriff?
Yes, so, and what do we call that place? EOC, there we go, yeah. So the EOC would be open, during the Hard Rock 100. We do provide basically support. We use it as just a test. So okay, we're gonna give information to the EOC. Sheriff will also give information to the EOC. We'll be doing a lot of back and forth communications. So policy decisions. So at this point, do you think you need to do a emergency declaration?
I don't think you have enough information.
Yeah, don't have enough information yet. What are your gaps? What do you think your gaps are?
Well, we have to get some information from whoever's, like, if, let's say the fire department is up there, then maybe get some information from them, get some information from you. Share, I mean, anybody who's on scene is gonna have a lot better idea what's going on than we would here in town or anything like that, so.
But you'll want to still go to the EOC, right, to get that information, because we'll be maintaining that comms with the fire department if they're out there. Most likely, we would also, the fire department would go out, kind of assess it. But as soon as they assess it, we're gonna pull in one of those teams that are in the region. And it is an interagency team to actually, they would take over the fighting the fire. So so that's the big thing. So you'd go to the EOC. So we want to establish that communication pathway very early. So if we don't declare a disaster, kind of what would be the approach?
You'd have to start getting like sheriff search and rescue, I would think involved immediately to. And
We'd have a lot of, basically all of our emergency and medical systems would be spun up to help.
Plus the Hard Rock knows where those runners are. I mean, you can track them, so they must have some way to be able to notify everybody where hopefully most of those runners are too.
But as the policy body, you're saying that it would be sort of like a wait and see what information comes back before even moving forward with that decision?
Correct, yeah. So you would want to basically get more information before you do a full disaster. But I would caution, like if basically we did get a fire that was in one basin next to our water source, that's basically an immediate trigger, like just let's declare a disaster right there.
Like South Mineral?
South Mineral, yeah, I mean, it's the same, really kind of getting close. I mean, Ice Fire, we did declare a disaster. Well, I mean, Willie was out of town and it did start on a weekend or something, I think.
Yeah.
But as soon as I got a hold of you, got a green light from Willie, and the county attorney and I whipped it up really quick and
what was our time frame on that, Jim? Do you remember?
I'd have to dig.
Is it like within that day or a couple days?
It was within 2 days.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is what I would just kind of recommend. Like if we have three things, we've got a fire, our water source, and a very well known international run event happening. It's like we should just go ahead and declare a disaster. Okay, so we've got that. Those are all good.
But you're gonna be helping us with that advice also, saying, I think you guys need to declare a disaster, right? I mean, I'm relying on you to give us that information, like, I think you guys better get this going right away.
Absolutely, but it's ultimately your, decision as a town and county. So here's another one. We have, basically, we have to evacuate the runners with an active wildfire that is burning in Belcher Basin. So that's a really big issue we have to deal with. Then we need to figure out how to get CDOT to stop the rock scaling. And then we have a couple of different questions. So how do we deal with all of our tourists in town? And then should we evacuate Silverton at that point? What would be a trigger point for that?
Belcher Basin's so close. If there's any chance the wind can turn, then yeah.
That's like a worst case scenario spot because it basically could block both forms of egress out of Silverton and our highway.
Yeah, so that is, that would be hit the panic button.
That's a mad rush of Subarus trying to do lower engineer.
We will not.
How do you evaluate? Well, I mean, it's gonna be obvious there's a big fire coming down the mountain, but how do you make that decision? It's like, you're going, oh my God, call everybody. Peter.
Yeah, I mean, that would escalate really quickly and get air sources, resources in.
I mean, the ice fire was far enough away, but they did say it would be in Silverton in 1 week, but a fire right here isn't gonna give us any time.
Yeah.
Not very much, at least.
I think there's gonna be everybody panicking and leaving. So if we're one of these people in this room, are we allowed to leave or?
If we have a fire, it's quite likely other people have a fire and our air resources like hats might be non-existent.
Nominate you.
Yeah, so we could request National Guard to come and help with evacuation. We could, basically, the team that's fighting the fire could try to at least stabilize, protect the road to get people moving to the south. You would also request Durango, La Plata County to come up and assist as soon as they can. Uray County may not be able to because we've got this CDOT issue. And we have to deal with all of the traffic of tourists that are on that. So we would have to just essentially kind of evacuate them out. We've got South Mineral, how to do that. But then we still have one of the big issues is how to deal with race. So
If you've evacuated town,
Yeah.
there's no finish line.
being at the same.
Yeah.
Rapid. That seems,
Like search and rescue would work with like Uray and Telluride to help evacuate the other race.
I mean, it'd be like once a runner hits an aid station, then
Get out of
and all the runners make to that aid station, they're all getting out of there.
yeah, and getting out, we may need to get helicopters.
You have to do that with the ice fire, with the people that are up at Ice Lake,
Yeah.
evacuate all of them.
It's good. I think comprehensive planning is in order because we're going to be looking at critical patients, older folks, and Steve's going to be trying to stop the Subarus from going down Lower Engineer. It's worth some real, I've tried to put my brain to it and I'm not coming up with any good solutions on how to do this because we can transport one critical patient at a time if these two egresses are closed.
Oh, right, yeah, so even with that, we would just basically stage critical patients or people who have access and functional needs to be evacuated by helicopter.
Which may not be here because if we can't get hats and if we get a lot of smoke,
But no,
no helis. Yeah.
They would
Like my
be
pleasure.
accessible, like they can assist with firefighting.
Make one real quick.
So that it's all situation dependent,
Because we had.
which is good. So, okay, we'll just throw this out here. Social media press are hounding.
Say,
like, they have
this
looked you up.
Emergency, have a local.
How do you deal with that?
Oh, I know the answer. It's Deanne.
Emergencies.
Hanging out.
I'm not gonna say that.
So that's the point. You've got to take away something bad. Excellent. Okay, I think that covers just that scenario. So I think also a big takeaway is it can often, like you can have a general plan, but if you try to micro decide every possible thing, you'll drive yourself crazy. So just having kind of big picture plans will work better. And this is also where we've got a IMT has already been, we've got him at least en route. And we may have some more assistance on that planning side.
And you never know what'll happen. I mean, the ice fire, our communications were cut by a backhoe. So there was no way to communicate except by phone. You couldn't put anything out. It really created a difficult situation.
I think there's enough Starlinks now that we could overcome that. Yeah. As long as we have power.
Times have changed.
But power, and even then, we could, I'm sure, get some boxes to plug them in, but.
I know, because we have batteries and I've got Starlinks now, so.
Yeah, all right.
That's okay.
Constantly trying to improve. After every disaster, we're trying to improve and say, okay, what went wrong there? What can we do better?
I'll throw a light pitch for anybody here to get ham licensed, which I know sounds like old technology. We have a network of repeaters that runs from Kendall all the way over, into Hinsdale County.
The meetings at Denny's are during the commissioner meetings.
sorry?
The meetings in Durango at Denny's are during the commissioner meetings.
Perfect. So people who run this network are, there's such radio nerds that they will, even in a fire, want people to be licensed. It's a 4-hour process. It'll drive you nuts, but then you're set for life.
Excellent. Any other questions from folks? Okay, nice.
Just want to say thank you. It's been insightful and thoughtful, and it's great that we all sit down to about this. So thank you.
I'll just do a plug. If anyone ever wants to help out in the EOC, just give me a contact and we can give you some on the spot training on how to do things.
Was the ICS at FEMA, is that back on yet for training?
It is.
It's back up.
So it's called 100 and 700. That is 2 online courses that it's actually government officials should take, that government officials and employees. It had been offline for about 4 months, but it is back on now. So if anybody wants to take that, I'll send out those links.
And that's ham radio, not ham and cheese, right?
It's both. It's a joint operation.
Okay, well, there's more food and thanks.
Ham and cheese are there.
I think they